Student loan debt is a gigantic problem for the near 45 million Americans who had borrowed money to finance their education. Can't discharge it in bankruptcy, partly thanks to Joe Biden. It stays with you. If you defer it, you still have interest. If you're past due, the federal government can take aggressive action in order to actually extract that payment. Part of that aggressive action is taking your tax return. Now, that's actually what happened to a single mother named Alexis Patterson. Now, she basically received a letter saying that she will not receive her $3,000 tax refund, which included her child tax credit. The government instead would apply the money to her past due student loan account. She and her 11-year-old daughter, Ophelia, have been homeless over the last few months in Portland. Her refund, she hoped, would help them secure a place to stay. Patterson, 47 years old, told a recent or a local paper, quote, "Everything just fell out from beneath me." Well, look, I've been talking about how Americans have been spending their tax refunds on things like health care and dental care, past bills, all that stuff, right? Now, again, a lot of conservatives like to think, oh no, you're just taking that tax refund money and you're having a ball. You're throwing parties, you're having fun, you're buying the newest iPhone 12, whatever. No, a lot of Americans are actually spending this on stuff that they require. Student loan debt, not included, right? And so, look, this situation, you have somebody who obviously needs that money for a place to live because they're homeless. Now, I gave you the statistics, right? Including how the average check from the IRS in 2019 so far is about $2,700, which represents about 6 weeks in income for the typical family in the U.S. And the largest cash infusion 1 in 3 households will see this year. So most families will not see that amount of money. According to a study by the J.P. Morgan Chase and Company Institute, families who receive a tax refund increase their out-of-pocket healthcare spending by 60% the following week. Spending on healthcare remains higher than normal for 75 days post-refund, basically meaning that when you get this check, you end up spending more on healthcare. It allows people to make more purchases of healthcare goods and services that, of course, normal people aren't able to normally make. That implies, according to the report, the cash infusion generated by the tax refund payment triggered additional spending on large healthcare ticket items that consumers could have least afforded out of their pre-refund cash flow. So this is literally a lifeline for a lot of people. So now you have this woman who, and I'm sure there are many others like her, that rely on it to secure basic things like living, finding a place to live. And they're unable to do so because of the student loan debt. According to CNBC, the U.S. government has powers that are extraordinary to be able to collect on federal debts and can seize borrowers' tax refunds and earn income and child tax credits, as well as wages and Social Security to collect this debt. And now that the government is the biggest lender of student loans, they can use their power to collect debt, and they have been doing so very aggressively. This year already, the government has taken about $3.3 billion from 1.4 million student loan borrowers' federal tax refunds, compared with the $2.3 billion from 1.2 million followers in 2016, which means the amount of people that have defaulted and can't pay their student loans has increased by that much, by about 200,000 in the intervening 2 years. So, wow. Not only that, according to data provided to CNBC by the U.S. Treasury, it has pulled 48.6 million this year from 91,000 borrower state tax refunds, up from 35.2 million from 70,000 borrowers in 2016. More people going broke, more people not being able to make their payments, means more tax refunds being seized and applied to student loan debt. Imagine how much money that could have went back into the local economy. It could have helped those families, and it could have stimulated the economy. But unfortunately, it goes to student loan servicing. More proof. This is more proof that student loan debts are a drag on the economy. Patterson herself owes $80,000 in student loans, and yet she is homeless. I mean, that's horrifying. Even with all that education, she is homeless, can't find a good job, and now she can hardly pay back that money to survive. Now they said there are programs to help people with financial distress, but it's incredibly difficult to actually get on those programs. According to Persis U, refunds are harder to get back than Social Security or wage offsets. So in order to do that, you got to prove that you're at risk of eviction or foreclosure. Since this specific family is already homeless, they don't qualify. They can't prove that. So it's very unlikely that they are able to get help. In fact, you said, quote, "It is an absurdly strict standard with which doesn't begin to capture the number of different ways in which borrowers are facing extreme financial hardship." And it's true. Patterson basically had been renting a room in Portland when, of course, she didn't get her refund, which means she can't live in that place anymore. She had, quote, she said, "We had to leave and we had nowhere to live." And the effect on her child, of course, has been devastating. She's got an 11-year-old. And of that, her daughter apparently is, quote, traumatized. So, man. So, unfortunately, of course, okay, so let's get to the good part, right? So now, there's a lot of progressive candidates that are running in 2020, right? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. Elizabeth Warren has a really good plan in order to basically, well, for one, offer free college, but also forgive up to $50,000 in student loan debt. Now, that wouldn't solve the problem, but it's actually a pretty good step, right? And there are people that honestly complain about that program who don't get it. They're mad because, hey, I suffered, you should have to suffer too. Or they come from the mindset that those people were just irresponsible and they could have paid it off sooner. It's unfortunate that that mindset also extends to people inside the Department of Education. You said, quote, "In conversation I've had with officials at the Department of Education, they viewed these tax funds, the refunds, as bonus money." Bonus money. See, that right there is the upper middle class wealth mindset. When in reality, people suffer without those payments. Last year, the National Consumer Law Center published a report titled "Voices of Despair," which talked about how poor people's lives can be thrown into chaos when the government seizes their tax refunds in order to pay a debt. What happened? A single father said he became homeless. A veteran and father of four said he expected to lose his vehicle. And over 65 million people reported skipping a medical treatment due to costs in the last 12 months. Now, here's the thing, right? So, as I mentioned before, a lot of people use that tax refund for health care. So they skip throughout the year until they get that refund. Then they get health care. Well, the government comes in and swoops it and takes it from you. Then you're not going to get that health care. And then your health is going to continue to deteriorate over the years because you can't afford that. So this is disastrous, man. Which has led to people resorting to desperate measures. One of them, filing bankruptcy, right? Now, bankruptcy doesn't stop the government from collecting student loan debt. But what it does is that it temporarily suspends Treasury Department offsets. So basically, if I declare bankruptcy right now, before the government can seize my check, then that offset gets delayed and I get my refund. Now, I still have the student loans. I can't discharge those through bankruptcy, thanks to Joe Biden, or anything like that. But at least I can get my check this year. And that shows how people are in survival mode. That is something that I've personally experienced myself. Survival mode, right? They don't have the luxury to care about later. It's, how do I find a place to live now? How do I afford food for my kids? How do I get them to school? How do I get to work? How do I physically make it to work if I don't have a car, money for gas or insurance? Can I risk driving without insurance? What if I get hit? What if I hit somebody? Or get pulled over for a broken headlight I can't afford to fix? Then I've got a ticket. Then I've got a ticket for not having insurance. I mean, being poor, it's stressful. Anybody who's never been poor does not understand how expensive it is to be poor and how stressful it is to be poor. It's terrible. It's terrible. And too many people don't understand the struggle. They don't understand or they don't care. But this student loan debt, it's literally destroying our generation. It's destroying people's lives. We need a solution, and not doing anything. Look, we can't afford to not do anything anymore. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm gonna have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.